Alphabet Man, tearing down the strongholds, exposing the darkness, wrecking the enemy's plans. Endurance till the end. It's time for the Alphabet Man Live.
Good morning. Good morning.
Thank you for joining us this morning, and I am
The Alphabet Man. So I wanted to dive in real quick and talk about something. We are actually waiting for our guest to join us. So in that time, I'm going to take a few minutes to actually to just reach out and say, you know what, we have ministry needs, we have ministry goals, we also have an upcoming plan, and I am blessed to have the assistance of a very wise man and his wife. And so I'm actually going to let Mike Heath kind of discuss what the ministry's needs, goals, and upcoming plan is.
Excuse me. Thanks, Dave. I've been involved with ministry my whole life, to and with and leading Protestants and evangelicals, both in Maine and throughout the country. And I'm getting directly involved with helping Dave Arthur solidify the foundation for his ministry financially. And so we're going to be starting and ending the shows going forward, just talking a little bit about the specifics. Right now, I'm working with my wife, Polly, directly with David on fiscal issues, budgeting issues, expenses, income, getting a very specific understanding of where he is right now. And starting next week, probably, we're going to begin talking about some of the specifics and inviting you to pray, first of all. But we're also going to be asking you to spread the word and to give money if God calls you to do that. Because that's a piece of building a foundation upon which we can go forward, or with, upon which we can build and go forward and do more of what we're going to do today, which is this outstanding interview with the guest. And also make sure David has everything he needs to go to the streets and continue what he's been doing with I Belong Amen Ministries. So we'll wrap up today's show, talk a little bit more about it. And as we move on, we'll be getting more and more specific, and we'll be inviting you to be on the team and to help us make this show and make David's ministry successful.
Amen. And I sincerely appreciate it. You know, I wanted to say something too. I got so many like just nasty messages and emails from people over the last few days, and so I know that a lot of it was stirred up at Urbana 18, and I'm appreciative of that. But somebody actually sent me a message and said, well, is that why you're in ministry, to ask people for money? And I said, well, first of all, anybody who knows what real ministry is, they don't do it for the money. And if it was all about the money, I would have a double plan. I would satisfy the lust of my flesh, and I would feed into the apostate church and probably become one of George Soros' buddies, because I would be well funded if I was on the other side. And I think that's important for us to look at and realize, because the other side is very well funded and very well organized. And I just feel like it's time that we start supporting one another and coming together as one, if we're going to unify and do anything that is going to be profitable for the kingdom of God.
David, can I tell you what that voice was? The person who said that? That's Flak.
Right.
Back in World War II, the bombers knew they were over the target when the flak started going off all around their bombers. That's just Flak. Let the bombs go, man.
Let them drop. Amen. You know, I'm excited about this morning. I'm excited about Lenine. I met Lenine a couple years ago. She had a radio show in Texas, and she had me on as a guest. We got to speak on the phone before the show, and we spoke for quite a while, and we spoke afterwards, and I joined her show a few times just to kind of jump in and call in, and then I was blessed to have a meeting with her and meet with her when I was in Texas. And let me tell you this, Lenine is a woman of God. What really blessed me was to know that when she came on the show before, we had some technical difficulties, and I slacked up and I didn't do some of the things that we normally do. But after the show, she spent over an hour in the after show with Jared. Jared and Lenine had a chance to bond and to talk, and she was able to explain a lot of things to him that I'm excited to learn about, because intimacy has been one of my topics for a long time. As the Lord slowly reveals this thing we call intimacy to me, I'm going to have faith in the fact that he placed Lenine in my path for this purpose. And so with that, I'm going to ask Lenine to come on in, sister, and give yourself an introduction. And you know, this is just day one of four days that you'll be joining us.
All right, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know why I cannot see myself again. Jared went over this with me last time, and I still cannot see myself. Can you guys see me?
No. No, but we can see your picture.
Okay. All right, then.
Your picture.
All right. Well, we are gonna carry on then. I'm not gonna. We are not gonna not get through this this time. Well, good morning and happy New Year to everybody.
Happy New Year.
Happy glorious 2019. I am so excited. Man, I really struggled to enter into the new year. If you could see me right now, I'm actually my hand is all wrapped up. I've got a little cast on it. I broke my finger a couple of days ago, and it's just been a lot getting into 2019 right at the end there. But I came in broken but victorious, broken and undefeated.
Amen.
Yeah. But
Lenine.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Intimacy.
Yes.
The surgeon for your soul.
Yes.
Explain to everybody why you are Dr. Intimacy.
Well, intimacy is my passion, the study of intimacy. As a matter of fact, I've actually coined a phrase, which is intimatology, which doesn't exist. That was just the wisdom of God to give that to me. And intimatology is the study of intimacy. And the reason that I coined that phrase is because I realized that there is no specific study of human intimacy. And when I say that, sometimes people are shocked. They're like, what are you talking about? We do have human intimacy. It's called sexology. And I'm like, no, therein lies the problem, that people use the term intimacy and sex as one and the same or interchangeable, as if they are synonymous, when in all actuality, they have relatively little to do with one another. There is a convergence of circumstances that can cause intimacy and sexuality to cross paths, but for the most part, they are two very distinct concepts or phenomenons, and sexuality is pretty biological, and intimacy is more metaphysical, and so they really don't have anything to do with each other, except under a very small set of circumstances. And so intimatology is the study of intimacy, or in other words, the study of core to core. And this is my definition of it: the study of core to core interaction between human beings. And the reason that I'm so very passionate about that is because I realized many years ago through my own my own struggles with sexuality, having been raped and molested when I was 2 years old. I grew up with a very, very warped understanding of love and intimacy. One of those incidents happened, well, they both happened with people that I knew and that I loved very much, people that were close to me. And so I already had a very warped understanding of intimacy and love growing up. And so I went through my life not really understanding how to separate the two. And when I came into the church and I was seeking deliverance from all of those issues that had occurred in my life because of living an extremely promiscuous life, thinking that I was going to find love, thinking that that meant connection, thinking that that meant intimacy, there was a gross lack of wisdom and guidance coming from the church to really help me understand what I was going through. And I spent many, many years studying sex and perversion, thinking that I was going to find my answer there. And I really thought that that was the problem, you know, that there was a lot of sexuality and perversion, and that was indeed a problem, but it wasn't the problem. The problem was lacking the understanding of what intimacy really was, how to really connect with people on a God level, how to connect with people at the point of his agape love, how to connect with people at the point where you literally begin to abide. And the word intimacy is not in the Bible. And so I can understand why that might be difficult for people to teach and to preach on. But the elements and the concepts of intimacy are so clear. And so my mission is to break down and help people understand what intimacy is on an intellectual and practical level, and then tie that back in biblically, and then show you how to practically apply it in your relationships.
Okay, and before we get into the intimacy, I would really, if you don't mind, hope that you would share and go a little deeper. Give everybody an introduction to Lenine. If you could go a little deeper in your testimony and your rescue, you know, the darkness, everything. Because I want people to have a better understanding of you and to feel you. And that way, when we get into the intimacy over the next 3 days after today, for the rest of the week, that they'll be able to come with some better questions and understanding you.
Okay, sure. Boy, that could be a long show. We could spend the rest of the week just talking about that. But to talk a little bit more about my testimony. So I come from a very broken family. My mom was a single mom. My dad was, at the time, God rest his soul, he's passed on now. So I'm definitely not trying to drag his name through the mud. But at that time, when he took my mom, he was basically a pedophile. She was 15 and he was almost 40 years old, and he took her away from home and made her a go-go dancer for his band and sold her into sex slavery. And he was extremely abusive. He would beat her, rape her. And so she had a really, really rough upbringing. He was married at the time, so I was a product of adultery. So that was my dad when they were together for 10 years. So my mom, of course, was extremely abused, and I was exposed to a lot growing up in that environment where they separated. She left him when I was an infant. And so I actually never had the opportunity to grow up with him or to meet him, probably to my protection. Even though that was sad growing up without a dad, it probably protected me from being exposed on a deeper level to some things. And so, but coming out of that background, my mom, of course, was very, very broken, very dysfunctional. She was a good mom, did the best that she could, but she had a lot going on with her. And so I grew up around a lot of promiscuity. My great grandmother was a product of sex slavery. slaves in America. She was a master's child, as they call them. And so, we just had perversion running through the family, homosexuality, incest, molestation, rape. We had criminology running through the family. We had a lot of crime, a lot of thugs, a lot of drugs, a lot of domestic violence. And there was poverty, there was illiteracy, and that was pretty much the environment that I grew up in. And so I was always looking to connect. I was always a very intimate child. I wanted to connect with people, but I was not accepted. I was rejected from the age of 3. As soon as I went to preschool, kids just hated me. I never knew why. And so I suffered from a lot of rejection growing up, rejection from my father, rejection from neighborhood kids, rejection. I was the youngest in the family. So, you get picked on and teased a lot when you're the youngest. And so rejection from my older, family members. And so I lived a very isolated and odd little life as a little girl. When I was 7, I was struck with a terminal illness. And by the time that I was 9, the doctors told my mother that I was not going to live. And they actually told her at the age of 9 that she should go ahead and prepare my final arrangement. So they expected me to die within a couple of days at that time, because I was in the hospital with a fever that had spiked over 108 degrees. And as you know, a human thermometer can only reach 108 degrees. So they didn't know actually what my temperature was, because it just peaked out to the top of the, back then we had those little mercury thermometers, those little glass ones.
Mhm.
I know some of you watching have no idea what I'm talking about. A mercury thermometer, but anyway, and so they told her that I was going to die. And I asked God to let me live. I did not want my mom to suffer. And that was, I hadn't really thought about it until you asked me, David, to share this. And I'm glad that you asked me to share this. The first time, I feel like I'm going to cry. The first time I can remember having intimacy with God, like experiencing intimacy with my Creator, because that at the end of the day, my objective for teaching on intimacy is, yes, to improve your relationships on earth, but ultimately my passion is to improve your relationship with your Creator. And the first time I can remember experiencing genuine intimacy, and I probably didn't know how to label it as that back in that time, was when I knew that the doctors had said I was going to die, because I was having like an outer body experience. When they said it, I was really pretty much unconscious, but I was aware of what was going on. And my mom, she was very open. She was a very intimate woman, and she had shared so much with us about her painful life. I could not imagine this woman going through anything else. I wanted to die. I had been sick for a little while, and I was in excruciating pain. Physically, mentally, emotionally, I hurt. My body was swollen from head to toe. Everything hurt. To brush up against me, just to brush my skin would send pain shooting through my entire body. Blinking my eyes hurt. Everything on me hurt. And I believed that I was going to go to heaven if I died. And so when they said that I was going to die, I really wanted to die. I wanted to go home. I didn't want to hurt anymore. I didn't want to be rejected anymore. I didn't want to be teased anymore. I wanted to go home to this place that I had heard about called heaven. But I love my mom so much. She was like truly my hero. And I could not imagine my mom going through the pain of losing a child. It was just breaking my heart to think about that. And so I remember laying in that hospital bed and praying to God in a way that I had never really prayed for him. And I didn't understand salvation at that time. I didn't really consider myself saved, but I knew that God was there. I knew that he was always with me. And I was crying. I said, Lord, I want to come home and be with you. I do. I really would love to be with you now. But my mommy's going to be so sad if I die. She's going to be so sad. I said, please, please let me live. Please don't take my life. Please, please let me live, God. Please do this for my mommy. You know, she's been through so much and she loves you. Don't let me die.
Mm.
And it was just such a genuine, authentic, open, touching moment that I had with the Lord. And this talk on intimacy this morning is making me aware in a way that I never had, that was the first intimate moment that I had with him as a friend. And obviously I'm 43 now, so that was 34 years ago. He answered my prayer. Not only did he not let me die that day. Ooh, I'm sorry. Not
Don't
only
be
did
sorry. Don't be sorry. This explains a lot to me. It explains a lot to me about you, because I never knew that part of your testimony. And so it explains to me that why, when I told you of my almost similar situation as an adult, why you were why it was there, why what was there in you, through you, with you, the conversation that we shared and the intimacy of our connection. It takes me to another level of understanding you.
Yeah. People who have been close to death like that, I mean, it just does something to you to get that close to death and to know that you're so close to death that it's going to take a miracle to not die. Like, if there was ever a time you didn't believe in God, when you're facing death, I mean, when death is close enough to kiss you, you will believe. You will believe in a way that you've never believed before. And it's something about the authenticity of that moment, David. The Bible says a broken spirit and a contrite heart he will not despise. Not only did God spare my life at that time when I had just, according to the doctor, just hours. I mean, they literally expected me to die within about 24 hours because they could not break that fever and they didn't know what was causing it. Not only did he spare my life, but because that moment was so precious, you know, just this precious little child, knowing that God was her only hope, he put a protection over my life for the rest of my life. He literally made a covenant with me over my life, because after that, I went on to attempt suicide multiple times, to live on the streets, a very wild life after everything that he did to deliver me from that illness. I used drugs, I drank alcohol. I mean, I can remember getting so drunk that I literally passed out on somebody's porch. I woke up in the 3 a.m. in the hood on somebody's porch in areas where there was known gang members, rapists, you know, wild dogs roaming the streets. And I'm just laying in a pile of vomit at 3 a.m. in the morning in the ghetto. So I tried to drink myself to death. I tried to sex myself to death, having unprotected sex with multiple people, knowing the risk of disease, of AIDS. And I mean, I was literally trying to die. I stopped taking all of my medication. I lost my will to live as a teenager. And I was held at gunpoint on 3 different occasions. At 3 different occasions, I had a gun to my head. I had a knife to my throat twice. I was stabbed in the back with a butcher knife by a jealous girl in a fight. I mean, I'm telling you, near-death car accidents. Death was so on me. I mean, this spirit of death was trying so hard to get me, because according to every natural law and every spiritual law. I should have been dead. I was doing everything to ensure that I died. I opened every door for Satan to kill me. I went through a period of Satanism, of devil worship and witchcraft. This was all after that prayer that day. And no matter what I did, no matter where I was at, what I was doing, who I was doing it with, how death was trying to come, it could never touch me. God would never let death have me because of that moment, that day that I prayed to him. He made a covenant with me over my life. And that's what intimacy in the relationship with God will birth.
Wow. I'm kind of blown away because, and taken back, mostly because of what's stirring up inside of me. As you go on, and you probably know exactly what I'm talking about, but as you go on and you tell your testimony over and over and over, and you relate to past experiences, and I tell people all the time, God had his thumb on me, God had his thumb on me, God had his thumb on me, and there were so many times I should have lost my life, that my life should have ended. It should not have continued on. There's so many situations, and you're describing those very situations and how God had his thumb on you, and it's moving me to a place like I'm kind of feeling like I'm kind of feeling guilty, because I feel like I've been desensitized to when I tell it, but just hearing you tell your story, just to hear you sit here and tell your testimony of how God had his thumb on you and how your life should have ended many times. It just moves me. It makes me kind of feel like I'm becoming callous to it, and so I'm thanking you, Lenine, right now, and I'm thanking Jesus for letting me know that I'm not becoming callous, and that heart is that heart and that ability for that emotion is still there, and I think that we have to tap into that more often than not, in order to actually get to connect with people in an intimate manner. And
Yeah.
Hey, Dave, I've been in that boat, me, but brother, what the Lord showed me was that God's callings are irrevocable, even unto death. In other words, death can't overcome the calling of God on a person's life.
Amen. That's Pastor Dale, Lenine. He's he was actually after I met with you in Texas, that's where I was going to speak in New Orleans at his church.
Okay. Hi, Pastor Dale.
But
good morning.
That's there's so many situations where I know that my life should have ended, and now I'm listening to Lenine tell me of how she knows and recognizes the fact that there's so many situations where her life should have ended, but it couldn't, because God had his thumb on her. When I came out of the darkness, and in the very first church building that I went to, they told me God never heard my prayers. God didn't know me when I lived in that darkness, that he didn't know me. That didn't even sit well with me, and I didn't even know what the word said at that point, but it didn't sit well with me, because I knew that he knew me, because he had his thumb on me, and it was for such a time as this. I mean, that's what it all comes down to. And so tomorrow we're gonna pick right up with Lenine, and Lenine's gonna get into intimatology. And she's going to explain intimacy and sexuality. And you know, it's so important because we must understand it. But as we sign off, I'm going to ask Mike Heath to come on in here and to just talk about our ministry plans and goals again.
Well, coming right up, David is going to Iowa to speak. And we all know how expensive it is to travel. So please, at this point, pray that God would provide the resources that David needs to put gas in the tank and to make that journey. And also pray that God would guide Polly, my wife, and me and David as we get into the details of his ministry and personal finances, and come to you in the future, in future shows, with specific prayer requests and opportunities for you to help David move to the next level of effectiveness with his testimony, with his story, and with his understanding of Christianity and how it can help people like Lenine. And Lenine is helping us for the next few days, for the rest of this week. And this coming together is developing a Christian partnership consciousness that is necessary for us to overcome Satan in this world. So,
Amen.
David, thank you. And Lenine, thank you.
Thank you, Mike. And Lenine, thank you so much. I'm going to give you a call later. And so everybody, if you want to know something, you can email the question or comment. You put it on YouTube, put it in the chat here. However you want to get it to me, and we will ask Lenine. So, Lord willing, we will see you tomorrow morning. Peace.